What's up, y'all? Hey, y'all looking good right now. I intentionally didn't come out so I can see how good y'all look right now. So thank y'all for attending.
Yes, thanks for being here.
Yep, so we will get into it. No method to the madness. So my name is Kaleem. A few of my slashes are father of 5, husband of 1. Music.
There's only one.
Husband of 1. I'm a musician, hip hop artist, and I'm a technologist. Oh, well, it's cute.
And I am Tiffany Musa. I'm a woman, a wife, a mother, a creative. I am also many more things. I am a writer and a daughter, but these are some of the highlights of how I like to describe myself. Next slide.
So,
Look at that.
I love this picture of both of us. So this is a picture of me. I don't know how old I am at that time, but we wanted to talk a little bit about our background. So I'm born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. I am a product of a single parent home. I have a TEDx talk that basically tells my whole life story. But I grew up on the east side, Livingston, Barnett, Courtright area. And what's interesting about this picture is that as a young kid, I actually had a lot of trouble reading. So my mom put me in like a reading program. I'm not sure this picture is that, but it reminds me of when I had a reading problem. So she put me in the program to learn how to read, and subsequently I became the world's greatest rapper. So parents, put your kids in these programs. But I always like this picture because it's kind of like prophetic. You know, it's like books and the globe and knowledge, and anybody who knows me knows that this is very much what I'm about. I've always been a creative person. I've always been an out-the-box person. I've always, kept a smile on my face regardless of like trials and tribulations. And yeah, that smile pretty much sums up my life. So.
And next to you is me. Go back real quick. Sorry, Chris. Go back, please. So if you can kind of tell in my picture, my 2 brothers are next to me. I had to crop them out. But growing up, I'm also born and raised in Columbus, and I am a product of the best side, which is the north side. I'm a product of the Linden area. I come from a 2-parent home. My parents were married, been together since my mother was 18. And I grew up in the middle of a middle child, and this is, any middle childs in here? So this is like my only childhood picture, which is like a thing with middle child. They don't have any childhood pictures. It's like the day I was born and then like 4. I don't know. So I grew up the only girl. I have 4 brothers. I have 3 older brothers and then 1 younger brother. And I was always in the middle of everyone. Again, I was the only girl and I was the middle child. And so I often found myself immersed in books because it allowed me to kind of disconnect from my world and enter another world. And so in the 3rd grade is when I was introduced to the likes of Maya Angelou and Langston Hughes, and then I found my craft in writing. And it was a way for me to escape and also to kind of write my own story. And I took off with that and just continue to write and read, until this very day. Next slide. Here we are.
Young things.
I think this picture was taken, this is one of our engagement pictures, so I swear to like 2012.
Yep.
A lot of life had been lived between the slide that you saw before and the slide that you see here, from the time that we met. At that time, I had graduated from Otterbein College, now Otterbein University. I had moved to Atlanta, I had a baby, became a single mom, and then I moved back to Columbus. And then I met Kaleem. And
nothing was the same.
And I think Kaleem came into my life around the time, like I said, I was a single mom, and I was really focused on being a mom and really being the best mom that I could be. I'm really focused on our future, what that might look like. And I really wasn't necessarily looking for a relationship. but it was really specific to him. I wanted him. And I mean, it's true. And so there's this, like, to make a long story long, there was a time, like, I heard his voice on the radio. I had never met him, and I was like, that's my husband. Sounds like my husband. And we met, we had mutual friends, and then it was kind of like, it was just a matter of time before we got together. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, so my life at the time was very much, I feel like, are we over here or are we over here? I feel like you keep going back.
Sorry.
I'm trying to stay. Yeah, my life at the time was very interesting. So very tumultuous. I did not graduate from college at the time. I was very much trying to be an artist and an entrepreneur. I brought into a relationship, I had 2 kids at the time. And, you know, I was very much trying to pursue this music thing and, you know, speaking and working with youth, but also and traveling a lot too, you know, a lot of different cities. And I was also trying to figure out this whole like new dad thing, especially not having a father and not having many father figures. So I was at a very tumultuous time in my life. And so kind of meeting Tiffany was kind of like a stabilizer for me. It was something that got me grounded and definitely could not be who I am or do anything that I'm doing today had I not met her. So that's how our paths converged. Thank you. Thank you. All right, next. This is our powers combined. Yeah. So we think that should reboot actually. So we decided that we was gonna put our life together, you know, and
combine all the elements.
Combine all these powers and kids and come up with something. And that's really what this what our talk is about. So it's important to understand, and these are actually like my notes, so you don't have to read that. But it's important to understand that sometimes when you see people on the same path or in the same place, there's an assumption that comes with that you and a person are the same. And so we wanted to kind of explain our individual backgrounds because all of that individuality definitely makes up the collective situation in our marriage and our family and things like that. And it's really understanding those things and being mindful of those things that allow us to kind of like navigate because we recognize you're not dealing with the same person. The person didn't grow up like you. They didn't eat dinner, you know, every Sunday like you, or they didn't do all of these things. You're in the same place. You're in the same, you know, situation, the same friends, but you are not the same people at all. And that's very, very critical to understand.
And I think too, people often ask me, how do you guys do it? You know, again, we have, you know, 5 children, 3 at the time we got married, and people just assume that we have it all together, and we really don't. And that's why it was important for us to title this No Method to the Madness, because there really are so many things that converge and so many things that work, and then they only work for a season, and then they don't work anymore. So we really had to figure it out along the way and put together methods and throw things away and
no
figure
methods.
out again. Right.
Yeah.
So you can go ahead to the next slide. So the first thing, we're going to talk about 3 things. We're going to talk about our marriage flow, our parenting flow, and then our personal flow. So first thing, marriage.
Hey.
This is our wedding day. Some of you were there.
Yep. So this is definitely one of the most important days of our lives. And this is the picture that people have of marriage, right? This is what you see on the internet. This is like, oh, look at them. They're dressed, they got blue in the background, they coordinated. Everybody's so happy. And then when you're after the marriage, it looks more like the next slide, right? So that's really what happens, right?
Yeah.
So you find yourself, you have to bring all of your pieces, who you are, and they bring their pieces, and then you got all the kids, and they got their pieces, and it's just like a jumbled up situation of just.
You gotta make a puzzle.
You got to put together a picture, right? You got to put together something that is beautiful out of all of these pieces. And though you may have felt like as an individual, okay, I know what my story is, I know what I want to do, I know where I see myself, but if somebody comes and drops more into that pile, then it's like, now what does it become? Oh, and here's some more, and here's some more, and here's some more. So.
And I always tell people, you know, marriage starts the day after the wedding. That's when the real work starts. But a lot of times for us, it looks a lot like this, trying to put the pieces together.
So, being single parents prior to entering marriage already set us up to have a no method type of situation. Because how many parents are in the room? Okay, so so the parents understand nobody knows what's happening, right? It's just, she's sitting there with a baby just hoping the baby doesn't turn out. See somebody walked in with the carrier, like you just hoping. Like, whatever happens, happens, right? We're just gonna try. So us, you know, what's interesting about us is that we were parents before we were married.
Yeah, we
so
were ready-made family.
Yeah, so parenting was like in the forefront of our mind, like, how can I be a good father? And it was actually one of the things that like brought us together.
Yeah.
So that's important to understand because like people are going to grow and evolve, but I think when you come with kids, you're already set to grow and evolve because as they develop, as they change, as their needs change, it changes you and it changes what you want to do and what you kind of bring to the table. So we were already set up to say, all right, well, we'll just do what we do, I guess.
So with that, I think one of the most important lessons that we have learned from each other throughout the years is expecting the other person to change. Similar to a flower, you don't expect the flower not to bloom. You expect it to go through many phases. Sometimes the wind and the sun isn't right, the soil isn't right, so it might kind of wither and close into its shell. But the ultimate goal of a flower is to bloom. And for us, once we decided and understood that I'm expecting him to be his full self, I'm expecting him to bloom into who he is. And when you give yourself permission to do the same, I think your marriage can blossom as well. I think a lot of times people assume that the person is going to just stay the same. The same person that they married on that day, they're going to be who they are. And I'll admit that some of that is what I thought as well. You know, I married this person and this is who I got. But it doesn't always work like that, you know? And it most of the time it doesn't work like that. You know, people learn new things about themselves. They change their names. They shave their head.
They change their hair.
And we've had so many changes. And I think that when we have learned to expect change and expect growth and to help to nurture that growth, help to be the soil for the other person, we have been allowed each other to elevate to our full bloom.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of putting the picture together, is coming to a point where you say, you know what, maybe what I'm putting together is actually better than what I thought before.
Right.
Maybe all of these pieces aren't confusion, maybe it's just creating something even more amazing. So that's the practice that we try to live by. Next slide. So, family flow. Next slide. This is our family, Trinity, who's present with us today. Sophia in the middle, and then Samuel, and then
the twins are in the
our
belly.
Twins are in the belly.
So this
right
picture
now.
was 2016, so almost 4 years ago. This is in front of our home. We're proud residents of King Lincoln, Brownsville.
I was about to rep. Yeah, she beat me to it. You know, she beat me to it, but it's cool. Yep. So next slide. Yeah, this is Kaden and Kadir, and you know, so quickly we'll talk about change. So Kaden and Kadir were born prematurely. Kaden spent about 23 weeks in the NICU. Caden spent
23 days.
23 days. I said weeks?
23.
Yeah, I'm sorry. 23 days. Kadir spent about 30 days, about a month in NICU. So you talk about changes, right? First of all, when you find out you're having twins, that rocks your world. I probably didn't talk for like a week. I was so upset, not because I felt like I'm doing it right. We got savings now. We got a house now. Look at us. We're great. And then it's like, you have two. And it's like, I've heard that joke before. And he's like, no, it's not a joke. And I just got mad.
Yeah, I asked the doctor, I was like, are you sure?
Yeah,
I said, yeah, I've been doing this for about 23 years.
Yeah.
2 babies in there.
I didn't talk for him like a month. And then it's like, okay, now we have to expand, finish out our basement. Just do a bunch of stuff that, again, nobody's planning on doing, nobody wants to do. You thought you had it right, but there's no method. Just get ready. You got twins. So.
And it's important to really talk about the twins just for, a few more minutes, because they really, they unified our family. Again, we're a blended family, so they unified us in a way that we could have never imagined. And they really just solidified our family and changed our family dynamics. Our 3 older kids, when we got married, they were 5, 4, and 3. So they're right behind each other. So the twins kind of bring their own element, and they kind of changed everybody's world. They changed the way that we parent. They changed the way that their siblings related to each other, and just really changed the whole dynamics of our home.
Yeah. So this is just we're talking about family flow. I wanted to screenshot just like my October calendar, which isn't even nearly all of this stuff, but I pulled out my calendar at Upper Cup Coffee one day, and Tim was like, oh my gosh, that's the view you look at that in? It gives me anxiety. And I'm like, man, this is the only way I can make sense of my life. So I'm not like a super organized person, but she made me, you gotta start putting stuff on the calendar, because we would always conflict. Like, I'm trying to do my thing, she's trying to do her thing, and it's like a race to the time. Like,
right, who's gonna put on the calendar?
Yeah, it's like, oh, Wednesday I have something at Taurus house. It's like, see, I had something Wednesday, but I didn't put it on the calendar.
Right, so no, you don't have anything.
So no, you don't. You got dinner Wednesday, my guy.
Yes.
So it's like, all right, cool. So once I got hip to that, I was like, I start hitting it. But then sometimes it doesn't share like publicly. Like the default is private, so it's like, no, I put it on there.
I didn't see that.
Like, nah, you lying.
Yeah.
You're just trying to get this Saturday. I already know what it is.
So Google Calendar really saves us, because we have 7 moving parts in our home.
It's mad. And another calendar on here is because of shared parenting. So I have custody of Samuel and Sophia bi-weekly. So every other week, I get them Sunday through Sunday. So that runs along the same time as well. So it's a lot of moving parts. Next slide. So with this, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, you try to do this, you try to do that, but it just doesn't matter. You're always outnumbered. It's always man down. It's always chaos. If you get time to breathe, it's cool, but we have to coordinate with 2 other parents as well, Thanksgivings, holidays, things like that, as well as our own commitments, and you know how busy we stay. So it just doesn't matter. Any given day, something's going off the ledge, a kid's going to throw up, a virus is going to circulate, and when that happens, it gets 5 people. So it's not like, we literally have quarantined somebody. So like, man, you gotta stay in your room, because I can't have 4 kids down. Like,
right. And I can't be down.
And I can't be down. Like, so
with that being said, you can imagine the last month trying to prepare for this moment. Like, even last night, like, just super hectic, just
scramble.
Children have needs. We have our own prior commitments. Black Tech 614 was last weekend, and it's just a lot.
It was madness. It was funny. We should have had a camera actually putting this together.
Yeah.
It was hilarious, because it wasn't smooth.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And I think too, that kind of goes back to like remaining flexible, because it's just part of a requirement for me now. Like, I have to understand that I can plan it this way, but you have to expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
And that's helped me with my anxiety a lot, honestly.
Yeah. Next slide.
So there's just some more pictures of us through the years.
You're welcome. You know what I'm saying? Some beautiful people in these photos right
Things
here.
have changed.
Yeah, so that's just life, you know, small flex. But these are the happy photos. Let's be clear
We don't
about
have
this.
any outtakes.
Let's be clear about this. These are moments in time, right? These are not like every day waking up, okay? But we love. It's the love that keeps you grounded. So next slide. So yeah, personal flow. We can go next to that. So I thought I had text on that. Oh, maybe I don't. So with our personal flow, the last thing we kind of want to talk about was so personally, your personal gets reduced to a small fraction of your existence, which means one, that you don't quite feel like yourself most of the time. But it also means that there's a premium on yourself, right? And I think that for me, like, I've always been a musician, I've always been an artist, but having a family dynamic changes. And so it's important to understand that dreams change because things change and people change. And for a long time, I was kind of fixated on living out the thing that I had seen on my mind, because once I get my mind locked on something, I usually stay there, and I'm willing to put anything on the chopping block to get to that goal. And it dawned on me, like a couple of years in marriage, that, hey man, you know, take a step back, you're actually not who you were, right? And it's okay to not be who you are. It's okay to say, you know what, it's kind of more important for me at this moment to build community. You know, I'm really feeling for the youth, and I'm like, I know I have skills, I know I have things, but I want to leverage it in this way. You know, I want to start doing more things with my family. I want to start doing more things related to this. And so that is the no method too, because you hear all this stuff on the internet, oh, you gotta wake up, everybody's got the same 24 and da-da-da-da-da-da, and all of this hype. But the reality is, if you're living life and you're living it selflessly, it just changes you. You know, if you're living it with compassion and understanding that when I step out, I carry people with me, then I can't make decisions just based off of that. Yeah, I got 24. I can work from 9 to 9, and I can stay up till 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. and we can do that, but is that in the best interest of my collective? And it's not always. Sometimes it is, because you got to get things, but sometimes it's not. So just understanding for me, like understanding sacrifice, understanding flexibility, understanding that, hey, next couple months may be like this. You may not be able to get to this. You may not be able to go to this event. You may not be able to do this, but guess what? It's more than okay. It's actually cool, you know? So I used to get pressed by that, like, man, I can't be out doing this and this and that, and people know who I am, but now I just understand, like, you know, if you want to see me, just come meet me where I'm at, because literally I'm around the people I love and care about all the time. So there's nothing wrong with saying this is where I want to be. And if you want to come, then you got to come get me over here, and I'll get with y'all when I get with y'all. So. Okay. Did a good job. Doing all right.
I put these two graphics here. This is kind of really more of my personal paradigm. Again, before I said that I was a mom before I was a wife. And when I got married, I really focused on those two roles. I focused on being the best wife that I could be. And I am a great wife. And
the best.
What'd you say?
The best.
Okay. And I've continued to focus on being a good mom, and then focus on being a great stepmom. And after the twins were born, that's a whole nother dynamic, you know, being a twin mom. And it's super cute, but it's double the work all the time. And I found myself fighting with some anxiety. And I realized that I was playing all these roles and filling all these positions, and I left really little to no time for myself. And I think a lot of times as women, and more specifically as mothers, there's so much pressure on us to be a certain way, to look a certain way. And I found that I couldn't keep up with that anymore. And this particular one, you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of yourself first. Is very true for myself. I found that taking time for me, requiring alone time. Hey family, I just want to go watch Grey's Anatomy by myself in my room for an hour, and not feeling guilty about that. And also teaching my children and modeling to my kids that it's okay to take time for yourself is one of the most important lessons that I've learned most recently. In addition to that, I've also stopped expecting Kaleem to be like me. I've stopped expecting him to cook a certain way, like clean
Stop
up.
expecting the real good food?
Negative. You know how like you don't clean up while you cook?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, that's
I don't.
irritating.
Yeah.
So just small things, like the way that I would do something, if he wasn't doing it some kind of way, or the way that I would do it, it would make me feel frustrated. But I can't expect him to be like me.
And if y'all know me, y'all know.
He is not the one to be controlled, let me tell you.
It's a bad idea. It's just not malleable. I try though, but then I always revert back. Like
he just is who he
I've been
is.
the same person like my whole life. I can't.
And I think that when we stop expecting others to act the way that we do and focus more on ourselves, that it just creates value within ourselves, and then it makes all of our other relationships better because we're accepting the person as they are, where they are. And that's been one of my biggest paradigms, really, probably of the last like 18 months. And it's really just allowed my relationship with my kids to change for the better, and allow my relationship with, I really think, hopefully all my relationships as I continue on that journey. Next slide. And also that's one of the reasons why I created Modern Blended Life. Modern Blended Life.
Y'all see that promo? That was smooth.
So Modern Blended Life was kind of born out of that paradigm of releasing yourself from the pressure and creating time for yourself. It's really a platform for anybody, but I focus on mothering because I think mothering comes with a certain type of weight that isn't, that's very unique to motherhood. And Modern Blended Life has really allowed me to own in on my writing skills and to focus on my career as a writer. I mentioned earlier that I graduated from Otterbein. I was a journalism major, but I never pursued journalism full time. And some of that I think was fear, but through this entrepreneur phase that I'm in right now, which I've mostly learned from Kaleem because he's been an entrepreneur since the time that I've met him, since before then really, has allowed me to kind of shift my thinking and to just really practice and be the creative that I am. Next slide.
Ooh, so I don't know if we have the audio. This is our last. This is kind of like the summation of our life. I was trying to get this picture for Christmas, but I recorded it because it was just so crazy. So let's see.
I don't know the sound, Kaleem, but we're gonna play it.
Okay, that's cool. You can get the gist of it from just looking at it.
Trying to get the lighting together.
That's Kaden.
You can kind of hear it now.
Actually forgot a kid. Had the perfect pose and was like, oh wait, it's a baby missing.
There he is.
So he's looking.
Somebody has a sucker in
Sandra's
their mouth.
looking. He's got a sucker. Then he puts his head down. So we're like,
And then the other wants to have a tantrum.
he's crying for Elmo. Trinity, you was doing good. That's the older sibling. Like, let me show the way. Trying to get Kadir to look at the camera. Yeah. And then it's, the literal process versus the moment in time. So that's
Thank
what
you.
I'm talking. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much.